Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Victoria from Keep It Holistic, where I talk about healthy living, motherhood, and more. And today I'm going to be sharing ways to eat healthy, to eat Weston price, healthy whole foods while busy. And I've been thinking about this recently because my husband and I have gotten to a point where it's gotten a little more difficult to eat a Weston price or whole foods diet, cooking from scratch. It's gotten a lot harder for us, and so I've been brainstorming different ways to make it more accessible. So if you take one thing away from this video, it is batch cook, batch cook, batch cook. That is like my main thing that I do to save time. And so every other night or so, I make a double batch of dinner. So I only have to cook dinner every other night or so. Or what I do is I'll make something for dinner and then it'll have the leftovers next day for lunch. It just kind of depends. So I significantly reduce the amount of time I spend in the kitchen cooking because I just cook all at once, like a large portion, and then either freeze the other part or I put it in the refrigerator and we warm it up the next day. So I do this even with things like oatmeal and breakfast items. I do this with boiled eggs. I will make a large batch of boiled eggs in the Instant Pot, and then I put half of them in the refrigerator and we have them the next day for breakfast. Oatmeal, I'll make a large pot of it and then half of it will go in the refrigerator and then I warm it up the next morning for breakfast. So this cuts down on time. I do this with things like potatoes. I will make a large batch of crispy potatoes. Like I have a bag of here and usually we'll buy like 1 or 2 bags of potatoes, and then I chop them up and I boil them, and sometimes if I get to it I will also bake them in the oven. I'll make them nice and crispy and season them, but I at least try to chop them up and boil them and then stick them either in the freezer or the refrigerator. They freeze just fine that way, and that cuts down time because you can serve those with dinner or breakfast. Another thing that I like to do often is I like to do charcuterie board style meals. So I have things in the fridge or like the pantry that are easy and ready to go. So boiled eggs, pickles, avocados, cheese. Our local farm produces a healthier summer sausage, crackers, things that you would see like on a charcuterie board, like fruit. Just things that are easy to pull out. Something that is easy like on the go is the Paleo Valley beef sticks, my soaked oat granola, some nuts. You can have some soaked and cooked, nuts that are properly prepared. Having things like ferments ready to go, just things that you can just kind of pull out and put all on a plate and it makes like a meal. I do that often for lunches. I will have like maybe a tuna salad or something ready, or liver pate. I'll have that ready. I'll do chicken liver pate, and then I'll have crackers ready to go, and then we kind of use that for snacks or lunches. And at least once a week I like to have a prep day for like a few hours, like on a Sunday afternoon usually. I will go through like what we might be eating for the week or things that might be helpful for the week. I don't always have it exactly planned, but I have like an idea. So I'll go through, I'll be like, okay, let's make some potatoes like I said. Or another thing that I'll do is I will freeze sourdough breads. I will just make sourdough once a week or maybe every other week. I make like a large batch of like biscuits and bagels and bread. And what I do is I slice everything up the way you would want to serve it. So if you have bread, I slice the bread up and then I put pieces of parchment paper in between, and then I put it into a freezer bag or whatever kind of freezing container you want to put it into. I put that in the freezer, and then throughout the week I just pull out like a few slices at a time for breakfast for people who want it. Or bagels are sliced in half. I just pull them out, put them in the oven. You can even make it even easier if you have a convection oven. Also on my prep days I will look at, okay, what veggies are we going to do this week? So do I need to go through and chop up some veggies, something that could be cooked a little bit ahead of time, like the potatoes, because those are things that take a little while, or maybe some rice or something that takes a little bit longer to cook, beans. I'll do that ahead of time. I'll also make things like bone broth ahead of time. I do that maybe once a month. I'll make like a batch of bone broth for the month, either chicken or beef, and I'll make a large batch of it in the Instant Pot, and then I strain out the bones and stuff, and take the broth, pour it into mason jars, and I will leave a little bit of room on the top, like maybe an inch or 2 of space up on the top of the jar so it doesn't burst. I will slow cook a chicken or a roast or something ahead of time, and then like shred it up and then throw it into meals. Now I know people often share this tip like, oh, you know, make like a whole chicken and you can eat it for the whole week. I don't know about you, but my family does not eat like a whole, it does not take a whole week to eat a chicken. Like we eat a chicken, like we have 2 adults and 2 small kids, and we will eat a chicken in like 2, maybe 3 meals. If you really want to stretch it out, you might want to do like 2 or 3 chickens. Another thing that I do when I do my meal prep days is I will look at, okay, what ferments are we running low on? Typically we like to have sauerkraut all the time, so maybe about once a month I will make like a gallon of sauerkraut. So moving on to raw dairy, something that's helpful is to buy your dairy in bulk, and this is especially crucial if you live farther away from the farm or if you're busy, is to buy it, like your jugs of milk and cream, in bulk. And what I used to do when I lived a little bit farther away from the farm was I would buy like 4 or 5 gallons at a time. That lasts us about a month. And I would, when I got home, shake up the milk, put it in the freezer, and then like every hour or 2 I would go check on it and shake it just to make sure it froze properly. I would take the cream and make butter, and I have a video on how I make raw butter. And so I make a large batch once a month, and I would roll up the roll the butter into little balls and then wrap it in parchment paper, stick those balls into a glass jar and put them in the freezer. And then like every few days, you know, in the morning I'd be like, okay, let's pull out like 1 or 2 balls of butter, and that would keep us, it would allow us to have butter throughout the month. When it comes to meat, you know, I pull out a few days worth of meat and I put it in the refrigerator, and then I can just have meat defrosted and ready to go instead of thinking like every single day, like, okay, I gotta pull out meat for tomorrow, I gotta pull out meat for the next day. It's just, I have a bunch of meat ready to go. And then when it comes to the meals themselves, I try most of the time to pick easier meals. I'll do like something more fun, about once a week maybe, sometimes twice a week. And ground meat is a lifesaver. So I highly recommend choosing easier cuts of meat because I've been there so many times. I think in my freezer right now I have like a whole bunch of like chicken legs and stuff, chicken breast that I just did not want to chop up and prepare. I usually go for things like chicken tenders because they're already in smaller pieces. It's easier to just throw them into the pan, maybe put some breading or something on them, and then give it to my kids. So I recommend choosing what types of meats are going to be easier for you to prepare. And when it comes to easier preparation, I highly recommend either having a slow cooker or an Instant Pot, or maybe both. My Instant Pot does slow cooking and pressure cooking, and it also has an air fryer lid. So what I do is I'll either slow cook or pressure cook meat, and you can cook it right from frozen. Like I can put frozen chicken wings in there and then cook those in like 20 minutes, and then take my air fryer lid and put that on top, and then it will like bake it and make it nice and crispy. So I don't have to transfer it to the oven or anything like that. It just cooks it all in one pot and makes it really easy to cook meat. And I also like to have a set of meals that I know my family will like and that we rotate through. So I have kind of a meal routine or familiar meals that I can cook up easily. I know how to cook. I don't have to like look up a recipe. I just know off the top of my head. And this may take some time if you haven't been, you know, in the kitchen a lot and cooking, like you don't have this. It's something that you kind of acquire over time. So make it easier on yourself. Choose easier meals and choose, like have a set of meals that you know your family will like and that are easy for you to prepare, that you can kind of rotate through so you don't get tired of them. So this not only helps you remember things, but it reduces the amount of mental energy you spend thinking about food. It just kind of frees up your mental space a little bit. And something else that I recommend if you have kids, especially when you have little kids, that's the best time to start this, is to have them in the kitchen with you. And my kids, I know like it can be kind of time consuming, especially with little kids, to get them to do things properly. They make quite a mess sometimes. What I do is I will maybe a few times a week have my kids sit at the breakfast bar right here and watch me cook. So as they get older, they're going to be able to cook meals for the family and maybe give me a break. So it might be a little bit of work right now, but when they get older, it's going to pay off. And something I'm actually thinking about doing is maybe having my groceries delivered. I'm thinking about maybe doing Instacart. My last piece of advice before I close out this video is to not strive for perfection with your diet. That is going to be really stressful for you. It's not possible to be 100% perfect. Our family strives for like an 80% of the time. Sometimes, often it's even more than that unintentionally. Sometimes I will get store-bought sourdough. A lot of times we eat the store-bought condiments. So I will pull some out here real quick. Okay, these are just a couple examples, but like, I think they make sauerkraut too, but Bubby's pickles are delicious and they taste just like the ones that I make. They're made properly. They're lacto fermented. So if you need to save some time, this is a good brand. And then I also really like the Primal Kitchen products. I know there might be people out there who don't like these, especially the mayonnaise. I've heard people say they don't like the taste of it, but it's pretty healthy. I don't think it's organic, but it doesn't have like canola oil and all that weird yucky stuff in it. So I like the Primal Kitchen condiments. Like we have the ketchup here. I save time by buying the condiments. So these are my tips for eating Weston A. Price and eating healthy when you're busy. Just give yourself a little bit of a break if you're still at that beginning point where you're still learning how to cook, because over time you start knowing how to do things. You have the family-friendly meals that your family loves and eats all the time in your head, and you know them, you know, by heart, and you just pull stuff out. You know how to make the grocery list. It just becomes easier over time. So, you know, take it easy and it will get easier, and I hope that these tips are helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again soon. Be well, guys.